Hi, it's Jason Jones with Hey Hoosiers, once again here talking this week about some Senate bills being proposed at the State House and the um, public hearing testimony that took place last Tuesday on the 11th. With me, joining me today is Jake Watkins. He is the BCT GM Vice President of Local 372A, and he is also the chair of the Indiana Young Communist League. I'm going to start off just saying hello and welcome.
Hello, Jason. Thanks for having me.
Glad you could be here. Well, I guess we should start out just sort of looking at, there are several bills here being proposed, Senate bills 6 through 10, 5 different bills, all equally as horrible as the next, if not more so. Do you want to just briefly go through some of the, important things about those bills that kind of stand out and that every working Hoosier should know
about? Yes. Thank you. So I'll try to go through them here in order. So Senate Bill 6 was the first one, and that sets minimum bail amounts for those alleged of crimes of violence. And those would disproportionately affect poor and working class people here in Indiana, while we know that the wealthy have no problem paying cash bail when they are charged. Next one's going to be Senate Bill 7, which that actually creates the Marion County Crime Reduction Board. It's just made up of various police chiefs, sheriffs, heads of security, and hospitals and venues downtown. And really what this bill is about is getting more police on the streets. It is, rather than dealing with our material conditions in the popular 2020 social uprisings, they are just hoping to have more police the next time around. That is what that bill will do. The Senate Bill 8 really is a bill that just targets charitable bail organizations. That would make it where essentially a CBO can only deposit $2,000 cash bail for those alleged of a misdemeanor crime. And they cannot give any cash bail felony charges. Senate Bill 9 is going to dispatch law enforcement sooner. It has to do with the state monitoring, whether it be electronic or pre-trial, post-trial, but it will affect a lot. It allots no time for malfunction with the devices, but it will just dispatch the officers sooner, which will lead to a lot more being incarcerated. In Senate Bill 10, this one is it's going to create the Marion County Crime Reduction Pilot, which is essentially going to be a group of that targets violent crime rates or reduction districts, violent crime rate reduction districts in Marion County. And it's just going to give more money to specific police departments and allow more taxpayer funds to go to policing.
Thank you for going through all that. That's a lot. Talk a little bit about, so these bills are still in committee. They had their second reading on Tuesday, the 11th, with an allowance of public testimony. But who makes up this Senate committee?
That's a really good question. So the Senate committee, I forget all of their names, but it is 6 white male men, Republicans. I believe there was one Democratic senator who was a voice of color in the room, and he was actually shunned quite regularly in his opposition to these bills. It was definitely the room. The Senate committee was definitely controlled by the white businessman.
That's a great way to describe it. You and I were both there for that public testimony, and it got pretty heated there for a little while. And the only person that's sort of like asking, you know, challenging these things that are being proposed was Senator Taylor, and then also, you know, all the senators who are proposing this legislation. You know, the state is targeting the state's largest city, Indianapolis, which is also a place where we have the most diverse population. I don't think that's by accident. And you're right to reference this is a white lash to the summer of 2020. But I want you to just briefly, like the white male senators that were there, they are representing, you know, talk about their districts. Like, what are their districts like versus maybe like Senator Taylor, who sits on that committee?
That's a good question. So I heard there was different testimony that I remember hearing in the hallway. People speak and that were there on account of various senators. And I believe one of the counties they spoke about was Boone County, where they were from, to deliver testimony in favor of these bills. And I think that is a repeating thing as we look through the constituents of the legislators that are trying to pass bills that are going to dictate life in Indianapolis, which is quite the opposite racial makeup.
Right, we see that a lot. Indianapolis is often things that are tried to, you know, be dealt with, or issues that come up within Indianapolis are, you know, typically dealt with by our city county council, but more than one time the state has intervened specifically in Indianapolis to sort of take away power from the local community. But I think that this is a really good point, and I don't want it to, you know, us to miss it, because you know, you have these white state senators representing very white, rural, and conservative districts coming in repeatedly to the city to take over, whether that's, you know, criminal justice reform or even representation as far as taking away city county council seats, which has happened in the past. Talk briefly about sort of what your message was that day, and I think a lot of that goes to the heart of how these bills will affect you know, poor, working class, and communities of color in the city.
Yeah. So that's a lot in the ways it's going to affect the working class. The most obvious is the attack on cash bail. A cash bail is already inherently racist in its way that it is used against people in Indiana. It gives liberty to those who can pay for it. Because keep in mind, cash bail is going to affect workers who have not been convicted of a crime, but are just accused of one. So that is going to be one of the biggest blows to the working class people around Indiana, and Indianapolis specifically. Also, another thing is we have desperately Indianapolis. There are growing, you know, social movements. In 2020, there were demands where we put people before police budgets. And that was coming directly from the working class. You know, the people of Indianapolis don't feel safer with more IMPD officers. They would feel a lot safer with good paying jobs, healthcare benefits, not worrying, you know, when their livelihood is going to be thrown out over a medical diagnosis is a huge thing. But instead, we're putting the money into policing and trying to make it easier to incarcerate more individuals. that will tear apart the working class. And a lot of these bills can be used as repression to future social movements as we continue to speak out against these and want more rights and more liberties, regardless of our pocket sizes.
You made that very clear. I was just wondering if you want to talk on, what could possibly be done at this point, maybe to reverse these bills. And if it's little or nothing, then little or nothing could be the answer here, but especially at this point. But just kind of just from your perspective, and from the struggles that you lead day to day in your job, fighting for working class power in the workplace. What do you think? What do you think we can do from here?
That is a lot of small little steps we can take can have larger effects. I do not think that these bills will go away without social outcry, and it has to be loud. That is everything from calling your representatives and letting them know that these bills do not represent our interests and we do not want them to pass. That it also includes these are things that we should rally around. We should be out in the streets holding demonstrations. I think a lot without a loud voice from our communities, they'll fall back on the word of their constituents. They'll say, well, Boone County wants this, Seymour wants this, and they'll use the voices of their constituents, which are largely white, to police Indiana's most diverse community. And we have to be louder than their constituents.
Thank you for that, Jake. Just real quick, we're about out of time, but I want to ask you what happened after you spoke. How was what you had to say received by the committee, and then what happened afterwards?
So yeah, I think one of the first things upon delivering my speech, I thought the chairman of the committee responded to me that I alleged that his bill would protect the profits of the bail industry, but it was a misrepresentation. I had made that statement about a different Senate bill. His had nothing to do with that. But then upon leaving, I exited the room and stepped into the next. There was a little outside room where a lot of us were able to hang out and watch the testimony on a TV right there in the other end. So I walked back out there and I got to know a few people from various organizations in my time waiting to speak. So I was, shaking hands and saying goodbye to them. And I heard someone followed me from the Senate committee and was yelling. And I heard him saying, like, you're a fucking idiot. I'm going to beat your ass. And it sounded far off for a minute, but it got real close. And by the time I turned around, this gentleman, I'm not sure who he was, but he sat in the Senate hearing. Apparently what I had said really struck a nerve with him. He continued to, yell that I'm an idiot in my face. Various people from the other organizations were very quick to kind of congregate around me. Not IMPD that was in the room though. They didn't gather around me. But the various non-for-profits did, and immediately the man turned, stomped off, went back into the Senate committee hearing. And at that point, everyone asked me if I was all right, if I needed to walk out. And it was powerful to see everyone, as I give a speech, how we need to redirect funds to community so we can better treat one another and provide for ourselves That was exactly what happened to me. The community gathered around to make sure everyone was safe until the situation was calmed down.
Well, that's crazy, but not unexpected, unfortunately, given the political context in which we're operating, where, even a routine, public testimony at a Senate committee hearing turns to threats of physical harm. I'm wondering if that person might be a member of certain organizations, uh, potentially police included, but we don't know, and that's all right. It doesn't really matter. I want to thank you for your time here today, Jake. Appreciate you lending us your insight and giving us the report back on these very important bills. If anyone is watching this with the thought of how can I fight back against this, contact your state senators. The next step for these bills will be a third hearing and a vote in the Senate. Contact your state senators, tell them to vote against this package of bills. After that, it will, and I assume it'll probably pass the Senate. It'll head to the House where it'll be read there, and we can follow that through by contacting state House representatives as well. For those interested in continuing and getting a part or taking part in the fight back on behalf of working class struggles everywhere, join the Communist Party at cpusa.org. And if you can find us on the web, the Indiana Communist Party is at indianacpusa.org. Thank you very much.